Creepers left to rise, buzz like crazy. Everybody's trying to stimulate it. Spiders in the mirror and feel this can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision still frozen tight. Spear drinkers, Cupid and the sound of her first chime. And why did you argue? Dreaming of those eyes, the best part of my life. And when we make love, babe, the world don't make a sound. The clock won't turn around. Ooh, you turn around.
Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another vlog. So today, it's Friday afternoon, and I'm at the gym with my youngest son. My youngest son is 14 and he is my current gym buddy. I started going to the gym, started weightlifting. I mean, like I've always tried to be active since I was like in high school. Like I was a runner, a long distance runner. And anyway, you don't need that backstory. So I started weightlifting in 2015, and so I've had the chance to sort of train with all of my kids up to that point, which has been really fun. So right now, my youngest son, who's 14, comes to the gym with me, so I sent him in, and I'm gonna go in just a sec, but I thought I would start a vlog clip. And it is Friday afternoon. I'm in the middle of a couple of audiobooks, but I don't think I'm going to talk about those. They're longer ones. One of them is Game of Thrones. Another one is a Mary Balogh book. So I think I'm going to start a new audiobook just for this vlog, and I'm not sure what one it is going to be yet. I want something, because the audiobooks, like the Mary Balogh book, it's the first book in the Westcott series. I think it's called Someone to Love. It's taking me a very long time to read, and it's not even, it's not that it's a super long book, it's not that it's a super dense book, but as Mary can do, when she starts a series, something that I think she often does is she introduces like every single character, and she gives you a lot of backstory for how all of the stories are going to be progressing, and so that's exactly what's happening here. So I'm like 35% into that audiobook, and I am liking it because I just overall enjoy Mary's books. I love her writing. I love and adore her writing. I really like her characters. I think she does a really good job of getting you into both hero and heroine's point of view really well, and so you sort of know how they think and feel, and I personally really love that. But this book is taking me a while to read, and I think it's mostly just because I don't really have a reason why. I am liking it. It's not that I'm not liking it, but I noticed this with her new book that just came out. She did sort of the same thing where there was a lot of background setup, only I felt like that was more like moving the pace right along, which I loved her new book. I think it's called Remember Love. I really loved that book. But in one of the first book I read of hers did the same exact thing. The Gilded Web was very, very slow to start. And I was so used to reading historical romances that like got you right into the romance like right away that I was like, what? And Mary's books are so distinctly different in that way because there is a lot of character setup. There's a lot of background setup to how this relationship is going to work. And I feel like her books in general feel more realistic to the time, and yeah, so that's exactly what's happening here. I don't know. With all that talk, maybe I will finish that book. I'm not sure what I'm gonna finish. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do for an audiobook. But now that I have successfully rambled for 3 freaking minutes, I finally am able to get back into the gym. I had to take a lot of time off this year from surgeries and health issues and different procedures, and it's just been a nightmare. And as somebody who has always really prided myself on my physical strength, I'm so sorry if I'm not like looking at you. I'm not sure where to look on my phone. Like, am I looking at the right spot? I don't know. Anyway, if you see me, like, I apologize. I'm getting used to filming on my phone, and oh my gosh, I'm so rambling. Anyway, I apologize if I'm not like looking straight at you for long periods of time. Okay, so Yeah, so I've really had a decrease in my strength. Like, I'm still strong. I'm much stronger than your average woman. I would say I'm even much stronger than your average female lifter, just because I have such a solid base of strength and muscle for so many years. But it's definitely been a struggle to get any strength back, and so I feel like I'm kind of finally, this week and last week, have started to get into more of a gym routine, which has just been so wonderful for me. So anyway, that was a bunch of information you didn't need to know. My husband has still been sick. He's been having some respiratory issues. It's stressing me out. Thankfully, none of the rest of us have gotten it, but he's been pretty sick. So my point is, I've been spending a lot of time on the couch with him watching Shetland on BritBox, which is absolutely fantastic. We're kind of obsessed with it. And I haven't been reading much because I've just been, he is very rarely home, and so I'm either working at the dining room table and watching shows with him, or I'm sitting on the couch, watching shows with him just to provide moral support. So now the point of this vlog, it doesn't have a point. I just wanted to vlog. I wanted to have some content out for you, so I thought I would talk to you about the books that I'm currently reading. So the main book I'm going to be talking about is Flawless by Elsie Silver. I picked this up a few days ago. I have wanted to read this ever since I first heard Cheyenne talking about this. She's the one who sort of turned me on to this book specifically. I think I don't know if it was in a recommendation video, or if, I know she interviewed this author too, but this is basically a small town contemporary romance with a bull rider hero, and the heroine is sort of the daughter of, I think it's like either a PR firm or his manager or something like that. And Rhett, the hero, has suddenly found him, like, he's top of his game bull rider. Like, he's a big deal. He's, very, very big deal. Big deal guy, cool guy alert. But, he finds himself in a bit of a PR crisis with some comments that he made about Milk, of all things, who sponsored him. And so his entire life is under scrutiny by the media, by people, and he has a little bit of a reputation for being a bad boy, like a womanizer, things like that. So the daughter of his manager recently graduated from law school, and she's trying to build this career with her dad in this firm, this athlete management firm. So her dad, her name is Summer, her dad, I had to take the phone case off of my phone to put it in the tripod. Her dad sends her to Canada. I actually don't know if they live in Canada. They must live in Canada. Anyway, her dad sends her to be with Rhett to sort of babysit him, watch over him, make sure he doesn't have another PR crisis, and that he basically behaves himself and tries to rebuild his image in that way. And of course, she has had a crush on him. She's a bit younger than him. I think she's 25. I think he's in his 30s. So there's a tiny bit of an age gap, which honestly, that doesn't even really register, because it's not like he's 50 and she's 20. That would be different. But, I am liking it a lot. I kind of wanted, I don't even know why I picked this up. I just picked it up on a whim. I wanted to read it. I know there's not an audio for it. And I've kind of stopped for now with arcs. I have a few I need to get to, but I've definitely slowed down on requesting them because I just wasn't having a great time feeling like I had homework all the time. I wanted to just read what I wanted to read. So I picked this up with sort of low expectations. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I will say I was very pleasantly surprised with how readable this was. The writing is really pretty great. The writing is the type that is invisible, where it doesn't draw attention to itself, like, thank you. And it's not trying too hard. It's just telling you a really good romance that has some rom-com vibes, but it also has a little bit of hints or elements of slightly deeper issues there. Rhett is dealing with some injuries, and he sort of has all of his personality and his identity wrapped up in being a bull rider, and he knows that he's got to retire soon, but he doesn't really want to, and he's sort of dealing with that. And Summer has some trauma in her in her life, because of some medical issues that she had that went undiagnosed, and then she had some complications with surgery, and that was relatable. Not quite to that level, but it's really great. They have really great chemistry. The writing is solid. I wouldn't say that this has great banter, but also it does. Like, this isn't a book that I would say, like, the number one quality of this is great banter, but they have, like, a great conversationalist type of writing, and I really think that they have great chemistry, like, really great chemistry. She has sort of had a crush on him since she was in high school, you know, and when he finds that out, it was very, very fun. I think the number one thing I could say about this book is just that it's very, very fun. It's very engaging. It's a very easy read. It's just a good time. It isn't necessarily unputdownable for me in the way that when I'm not reading it, I'm not like constantly thinking about it and constantly wanting to pick it back up to try and like, what's going to happen with these two. But when I am reading it, like, I'm just enjoying myself immensely. So this is just a very fun, solid read, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And yeah, thanks to Cheyenne for putting this author on my radar, on all of our radar. I'm pretty sure Cheyenne is responsible for that, but yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and I'm really, really liking it. So I don't know that I'm gonna have like a whole lot to discuss about it. It doesn't necessarily feel like that's the type of book that it is, but it is just a solid, fun read that I'm very much enjoying. I think they, you know, I've said it like 3 times, but the chemistry is chef's kiss, excellently done, great chemistry. And I am halfway through, and they haven't like already slept together, so that's a bonus for me. Like, the buildup of this is really, really great. I'm enjoying that. So yeah, it's fun. It's good so far. So I will update you on that, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not sure what I'm gonna include for an audiobook. That'll just be a surprise for both of us, okay? Okay, I'm gonna go in and work out. So wish me luck, and I'll see y'all in my next clip. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Okay, so of course I'm at the gym at a different time and the sun is hitting me, and I apologize for that weird lighting, but I want to talk about this book real quick. And I will update you on Flawless when I'm finished. I'm about 20 to 15% left of Flawless, and then I'll update you on that. So I wanted to update you on the audiobook that I decided to go with. I decided to just finish this Mary Balogh book. This is the first book in her Westcott series, which is her newest series, her newest completed series, other than the one she just had a book come out this summer, Remember Love, which is a new like family saga romance. Like, she does, almost all of her books have that in them. And so this is a series that I've really been wanting to read for a long time, and I found this new edition at Barnes & Noble a few months back, and I just like fell in love with it. I just thought it was so beautiful. Like, I know I've said before that I don't really love a lot of the new historical romance covers that are kind of going in a direction that is like less steamy and less like romantic, but I just adore this one. I feel like it perfectly encaptures Mary's writing, sort of that blend of, like, she does proprietary and historical really, really well, like, accurately building, slowly developing relationships that feel more realistic historically than maybe some of the more fast-paced and fun historical romances. Anyway, so I've had this audiobook. I have the physical copy because I just love it, but I'm listening to it on audio, and I'm struggling with it. I am struggling with it. At this point, I'm about halfway through. I'm a little over halfway through. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this author. So the first book that I read from her was called The Gilded Web. I read that as part of a book club, the seasonally booked up book club. And I struggled with that book too, because I was very much used to reading historical romances that were very fast-paced, that were very sort of snappy, witty dialogue, or else very like romantic and steamy right away. And Mary's books are very, very different. Like, they're very slowly developing. They're slowly developing in the story, and they're slowly developing in the romance. And so at this point, halfway through, the romance is just like barely simmering. You know, most of what's been happening in this book is the background of the characters and what's going to happen for them in later books. So the basic premise of this is our heroine Anna. She is the daughter of a duke or an earl. No, an earl. She's the daughter of an earl, but she believes that she is his byblow. And so when he passes away, she, you know, her, I guess, stepmother sends for her to come and get like her part of the fortune, and it's considered it's not going to be like this big deal, you know. Well, come to find out, the earl actually was married to Anna's mother legally, and the woman that he then had a life with and had more children with, he was never legally married to her, so he was like practicing bigamy. So Anna is actually his legitimate heir, and she inherits everything from him, and it's like a vast fortune. So this is a really interesting concept for this series, I think, because it sets up like a lot of angst and a lot of contention and a lot of like hurt feelings that everybody, all of the siblings, are going to have to deal with as they sort of come to the terms with the idea that the life that they thought that they had, this life of luxury and status, has just been ripped away, and now they're basically all like illegitimate, you know? So the hero is Avery Archer, and he is a duke, and he has a relationship to the Earl's family, but it's not by blood, and he's there sort of not necessarily overseeing it, but he also has a what's it called, a ward who he's sort of like overseeing and taking care of, that is related to that family as well. I'm probably messing up all the family dynamics because, like, truthfully, that takes up a big portion of this book, and I had a hard time keeping track of all of the different names, how they were related. It just was a lot of information with characters that I didn't really know a lot about, and therefore I didn't really care a lot about them, you know? But I understand what she's doing. I understand how she's setting the groundwork for future books to come, but it definitely feels like this book is very, very, very slow. It's very slow and reads a little bit dry, and I find that just very interesting because this book was published in 2016, and so far this is my least favorite Mary Balogh book that I've ever read. I'm having a very difficult time feeling any bit of romance, mostly because the romance is between Avery and Anna, and Avery is doing that thing. He's a very starchy duke. He's big on propriety and all this other stuff, and he is doing that thing where he is feeling attraction to her, but he's like constantly in his head, like, against my better judgment, like, she's not my type because she doesn't look like this, or she has this physical attribute, and he's really conflicted about how he feels about her. He is attracted to her, he does like her, but he's like, well, why should I? Because she was an orphan, she's a governess, she's not a part of our world. And so that's like a trope that Mary plays with a lot in her romances, and it always is difficult for me to get on board a hero like that. Even though I know it's realistic, I just don't love my hero to be like, well, I'm attracted to her against my better judgment because she's not as beautiful as all these other women, because, like, I don't know, I don't like that. So this is very slow paced, very slow building, and it feels very much like work to get through this. But I decided to just finish it because it's been in my Libby library for so long, and I want to get on to other books in this series. I definitely want to read this whole series. I'm on a mission to kind of read all of Mary's books because I think that she is just a fantastic writer. But for me, my opinion, if this was the first book that I had picked up by her, I would probably never read her again, because this is her newest series, and it's very slow. It's very, very slow. There's very little characters here that really compel you to keep reading and finding out more about them, and I'm just sort of like not loving it, you know? But I say that, but I also there is a part of me that just always enjoys reading Mary's books. I think she has really insightful things that her characters do and say and think, things that aren't common in historical romance, and I really enjoy that a lot. And I also really, really love how she will have a very slow simmering relationship, and then it just kind of builds and builds and builds until you get to the final moment, and I just really love that. I also love how she makes, like, her heroes very tortured. But the thing that this book is lacking, that the Gilded Web really had for me, just like so much, and the Gilded Web, I believe that was published in like 1986, 80 something. It was in the 80s, 86, 89. The thing that really impressed me with that book was just how beautiful the writing was. Like, there were so many moments in that book when I first read it that I was like, this is a book where the story feels like it's a slog to get through. Like, the story isn't compelling me, but what is compelling me is the writing, this beautiful way she has of using words to convey how people feel about each other and how they feel about their circumstances in life. And that's something that I just really love and adore about her books. I'm sorry if you can't see the cover, I'm kind of holding it weird. So I'm finding that to not be as present here in this book, and I find that interesting and a little sad, because I think that's something that Mary has always really excelled at. But anyway, yeah, so interestingly enough, her newest series, the first book, is kind of a miss for me. I'm really, really curious to see what the other ones are going to do. And again, like, I'm halfway through, so she still has potential to turn this around. At this point, this is sitting at probably a 3-star for me. And, like, because honestly, I just can't bear to give Mary any less than a 3 because she is just this powerhouse of a writer. She has an excellent command of the written word, just so completely beautiful. And I do really enjoy her relationships. But again, if I were to recommend somebody to start with Mary Balogh, I would not pick this series at all. I would definitely pick the Bedouin Saga, which to me, so the Bedouin Saga was written in the 2000s, and like the first book in that series, which is one of the prequels, was published in 1999, and then they continue on from there. And that series reads much more straightforward, like historical romances that we know and love. Like, you meet the hero and heroine almost right away. They have like an inciting incident that gets you really invested in their romance, and you can feel sort of their chemistry and relationship. And whereas this is really taking its time. Like, it's taking its time to get you into the romance. And again, like, I feel like I say that, but whenever I read any type of book, obviously I love and prefer romance, but I want to feel a connection with my characters, and it feels like she's keeping me at a distance with these characters, and I can't decide if that's because of the proprietary nature of who they are, or if it's a device that she's using just to sort of get you to know every single character in the family. So it's interesting. It's definitely not a favorite of mine, and I'm sad about that, but I don't know. I'm going to continue it. I'm definitely going to continue it. So I'll let you know my final rating on this when I finish it. But yeah, right now it's probably at a 3. So, okay, that was an update for you there. I'm going to finish Flawless, and then I'll finish this Mary Balogh, and then we'll come and wrap everything up, and I'll let you know my final thoughts. So thank you for watching and being here with me, and I'll see you in my next clip.
The last breath of summer is blowing down our necks, and soon we'll wave goodbye to the fleeting bliss. Because you are like a tidal wave, ripping up my life, not living without a trace. And you know that I'm your silent patient. You know I'm your silent patient. I've been waiting.
Hello friends, welcome back. Okay, so I finished Flawless today, and I really enjoyed that. That was such a fun small town contemporary romance. Like, I loved everything about their romance. I felt like they had really great chemistry. I really liked the setup of this, that he was sort of had this persona of being a bad boy, but really had kind of moved on from that. He was a bull rider, he had some bad press, you know, and she comes in to try and polish his image so his sponsors like don't drop him and stuff like that. And of course she's had a crush on him since she was a teenager, and he's very attracted to her. Like, their attraction was palpable. It was beautifully done. I also really liked that it wasn't super lust heavy in their attraction. I feel like for me, a lot of times the way the attraction is depicted can be like a make or break it for a book for me. If it relies too much on like really heavy lust, specifically from the side of the hero, like, I'm kind of out. What I love to see is when the hero is very physically attracted to her, but he also feels very drawn to just who she is. And there's this feeling of, I don't know what is different about this person, but I want to be around them all the time. I want to touch them all the time. Like, just that new love feeling. And I think some authors capture that so well, and Elsie Silver did. Like, she nailed that here. Just nailed, like, that feeling of, like, it's not a rational thought. You don't understand why touching this person feels different or why you crave their presence. And she just, like, completely encapsulated that, and I was just a huge, huge fan of it. I loved their romance. I loved the build-up towards it. I felt like it was very, very hot. It was just, but not just heat. Like, it was very emotional and tender, and I just adored it. I loved Rhett. He was a very protective hero. This was just such a delight to read. It was a ton of fun, and, you know, all the props in the world to Cheyenne for putting this author on my radar and probably everyone else's. Like, this was just a pure delight. I enjoyed it immensely. So all of those positive things. I do have just a teeny tiny critique that it wasn't enough really to tank this book for me or to make me dislike it. It honestly wasn't even really enough to give it less than a 5-star rating on Goodreads. I ended up settling on a 4.5, but I'm going to round it up to 5. But I will say that this book brings up some issues about, like, Rhett dealing with feeling like his body is worn out. He needs to retire from being a bull rider, but his identity is, like, so wrapped up in that he doesn't really know how to do that. He doesn't want to do that. And he feels this very conflicted feeling of wanting to continue with his dream, with who he has assigned himself as this bull rider, and not let everything go that he's worked for, while feeling a little bit, not resentment, but sadness that his family doesn't support him, and they don't support him because they're afraid for his life, you know, because it's such a dangerous job, and they want him to retire and all this other stuff. So that was like a big issue for him, and I felt like it was kind of glossed over a little bit too easily. I think the ending worked a little too easily. You know, I would have loved for that his issue, and Summer has her own issues, you know, like she had a congenital heart defect when she was a kid. She was in the hospital a lot as a teenager. She has some pretty, I don't know how to describe it, some history that is not exactly pristine with one of her doctors involving her half-sister. She has a really complicated family dynamic, and she's dealing with a lot of that baggage and a lot of who she is today, why she has the job she does, how she thinks about herself. Her constant desire to push towards perfection is really shaped by that trauma that happened in her home early on. And something that I really, really love romance books to do is tackle trauma that happens in growing up years, either through your parents or something traumatic that happens in your childhood, even something that isn't necessarily a super traumatic event like an assault or anything, abuse, things like that. But just, I love the idea of romance novels exploring how that affects an adult's relationships, like the first time they fall in love, and why it makes it difficult for them to trust and have true intimacy. And I love when that's discussed. And I feel like if this book had tackled that a little bit more explicitly, rather than kind of glossing over it and providing them this very easy path towards their happily ever after, I personally would have been more satisfied, because that's what I'm always looking for. I love seeing my couple sort of have these internal issues that usually manifests in fear of either abandonment or disappointment. I want to see them tackle that together, you know, maybe through talking it out, not necessarily talking it out, because I realize that's not always going to be a super exciting scene in a book to write, but I love seeing that tackled by my authors, and the potential for that was here, and I do think this author has the talent to do that, but instead she decided to go, I guess, a less complicated route and provide them with a happily ever after that was more easily achieved and that was more of a fairy tale, and I don't fault her for that, because I enjoyed it, but that was really what kept it from being like a 5 or even a 6-star read. Like, if that had tackled that emotional issues, it would have for sure been a 6-star read, because this author is very, very talented. Her writing is superb, you know, very easy to read, very engaging, great banter, great characters, you know, really great character setup, great situation setup. So much about this book was just wonderful, but the ending kind of left me feeling a little underwhelmed, because the potential for it to be great was there, and I also feel like she had set it up to be great, and then it kind of felt like a little bit of an easy way out in the ending. So again, it's not enough to really make me upset or angry. It just sort of feels like a missed opportunity that would have just made me kind of have this be the type of book that I will never shut up about, you know? As it is, it's a completely enjoyable and entertaining rom-com. Slightly emotional, just beautiful, fun. I just had a great time reading it. So 4.5 rounded up to 5 stars. Really, I don't think you can go wrong with this book. I just enjoyed it immensely, and I would definitely recommend it too. So, okay. So that's Flawless. Now I am almost done with the Mary Balogh. I'm going to finish that, and then we'll wrap this vlog up, and I'll see you when I've finished Someone to Love. Alright, my friends. It is time to close out this vlog and to finish talking about the books that I had read. So, alright. I finished Someone to Love, and I really didn't like this. Well, that's not fair. There were parts of this that I liked. I will always respect how Mary builds her characters. I think she has a really good grasp on character development. And I also really like the specific situation that she has set up here for the families in this series. I think it's going to be really interesting. The hero was probably one of the least favorite heroes I've read from her, for sure. I just really had a hard time with how often he spoke about the heroine in terms of, like, she wasn't pretty enough, like, she wasn't attractive enough. Like, it was giving, like, those Darcy vibes, like, not handsome enough to tempt me without, like, without being Darcy, you know? And I just find that, like, that's one of those things that for me as a reader, it's almost impossible for me to get on board with a hero like that when he is so focused on finding just this really beautiful wife, beautiful woman, especially in historical romances, even though I know women were treated as currency and a lot of their currency was in their physical beauty. I just don't love that as an emphasis. I don't care how realistic it is. I don't care how realistic it is today. I don't enjoy when a hero just constantly objectifies the woman he's interested in, and he continues to rationalize, like, well, I like her, but I don't know why, because she's not pretty, she's not beautiful, and I don't know. They did have a satisfying end, but it wasn't enjoyable to get there. So this book really let me down, and I think I kind of want to give it 2 stars, but I don't know if I will or not, so I'm probably going to settle on 2.5, and I'll round it up to 3. And I'm very disappointed in the romance. I'm very disappointed in the storytelling. I mean, this was a very, very slow read. I hate to say it because I love Mary, but this was a big miss for me. And I'm sad about it. And I'm sad that this is her newest completed series, written in 2016, because it was lacking in so many ways. So, I mean, I did enjoy their relationship, but there was no build-up, there was no chemistry between them. Like, I struggle with that in historical romances. Like, I want there to be build-up and I want there to be chemistry before they get married, and all of that came after they got married, and even after they had their first intimate scene, and I just don't love that. Like, I don't know. This was disappointing to me. So 2.5 rounded up to 3 stars. And if this was your first Mary Balogh and you, like, swore off her, like, I understand why, but the Bedouin Saga is leagues ahead of this. I feel like that series is so much better than this. This one was just disappointing. So, sadly, 2.5 stars for this, and I'm kind of devastated about it because I do love Mary. But, you know, interestingly enough, I do feel like both Mary and Sherry Thomas, who are both authors that I love and adore. Like, I really respect their writing and their craft. I think that they're excellent storytellers. And this is the first book of Mary's that I've actively disliked, but there are several Sherry Thomas books that I have read that I really don't like, that I've given, like, 2 stars, and I feel like 2 stars is being generous. So it's interesting to me how 2 of my favorite authors who have made stories and have great writing that I just really love and connect with can also create books that I'm just like, what in the heck is this? What in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch is this, you know? So anyway, that was disappointing, but I really enjoyed Flawless. Flawless was just a delight. It was just a pure delight. If you were looking for just, like, a pick-me-up read, I would highly recommend that one. I feel like most people, like, it's been getting so much buzz. I feel like a lot of people have read it. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. So, all right, my friends, I'm going to leave you here, and just want to say thank you so much for watching this video and for coming along in this vlog journey with me. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. I'm not sure when that will be. If you want to leave me an emoji, feel free to leave me a pink heart, and I'll see you next time.
Ooh.